And then there we go. I'll just put myself up in the corner so I can see you. Anyway, welcome everybody to this live webinar where we're going to explore how to say no successfully and guilt-free. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mette Teilman and I am Danish, so we can get the accent out of the way. And I'm also a fully qualified parent and family impact coach and the founder of Predictable Parenting. And I support parents to create better connection and communication with each of their family member, including themselves. But also, if you're going through a separation, I also support you with your ex-partner or new partner, or maybe a stepchild. Because once we have stabilized this, everything afterwards becomes so much easier to create rules and routine and set boundaries, which is what we're going to look at today. But maybe also you're away from your family due to work or business commitments, or maybe due to separation, which can be really hard for your children to accept. But also, nobody goes through family life battle or stress-free. But if your starting point is a healthy connection and communication with consistency, you're more likely to bounce back afterwards and restore the peace and quiet and connection afterwards, without coming out the other end with negative scars or constant feeling of guilt. But also, I focus on consistency, because every child thrives with consistency when they know what's expected of them or not. And when they know what their parents' response is going to be or to their behavior or to their request, they don't have to second guess what we're going to do and say. We become safe company to be with. So today's tool would really only work if we put them into practice and when we use them consistently. And otherwise, we teach our children that if they push back hard enough, they will get what they want, or they will get out of what they don't want to do. And believe me, we will make our lives so much harder than we have to. And actually what we do is we teach them, it will be a learned behavior, but the good news is that it can be unlearned. So today we're going to look at the benefit and barriers of saying no and set boundaries, because remember, nobody said parenting was going to be easy. We're also going to look at your parenting goal. What is it that you would like to achieve as a parent, and your parenting principles. We're also going to look at a process called before, during, and after. And for those of you who had been at my webinars before, you are quite familiar with the process. That if we spend a lot of time on the before, the connection before the correction, where we stay curious instead of furious, and we work on a connection with the child and where we master our own emotions, then the middle bit will become so much easier. We're also going to focus on the afterwards. How can we reconnect after we have set our boundaries down and our kids might have had a little tantrum or wobble, and then move forward in a way that still restore the connection and the balance. And of course, we're going to look at the during, how to say no in a respectful way, and deal with resistance, because one thing is to be able to say no, but how are we going to deal with our child when they push back our boundaries? And at the end, we're going to look at how can we keep working together. But obviously, we're going to first look at this. So, sorry, just somebody out the window there. As a professional and as a mother of 3, my children are 18, 20, and 21. I've come to realize that one of the main challenges for a lot of parents is to be able to say no and set boundaries in a way that sit well with us and still respect the child, and doesn't lean to shame or blame and actually lots of guilt afterwards. While it's not difficult to say the word no, we are aware of that at times we do have to be able to let our boundaries down, to say our boundaries and to say no. And when we think about it, before we have kids, nobody ever challenges us as our kids do. So it's almost like it's a new thing that we have to learn, this thing about setting boundaries so hard. So I would like to think of it as a muscle that hasn't been used for a very long time, that just need a lot of flexing and practicing. And in the beginning, it might be a little bit sore and we might be about to give up. But if you keep it going and you practice, then over time, you will find that it becomes less painful. And actually, that muscle become a habit to use. And just remember, nobody said that parenting was going to be easy. So when I work with parents, a lot of the things that they struggle with is in the barriers to saying no is that we think that it's loving to say yes and therefore not loving to say no. So we don't want to appear unloving, so we end up saying yes. But I just want you to keep in mind that actually, when we do find the ability to say no and let our boundaries know in a way that is respectful for the child, it's almost like we say, I love you too much to behave like that. We trust the child to behave. We trust the child to live up to our expectation. In a way, it is a kind of love declaration when we do it the right way. Also, parents say that we think they're saying no, but actually it's not quite clear to us or to the child. It's a little bit confusing. So it could be we say something like, I don't think that's a really good idea right now, instead of just saying, no, that's not going to happen. So we're actually not making it very clear that we are saying no. And therefore the child keep pushing back because they haven't fully understood. Maybe our no is too soft or too harsh, so it's received the wrong way. Sometimes parents find it hard to say no or put our boundaries down to avoid the battles afterwards. We're a little bit afraid of the kids' reaction because they will have a reaction to our no. That's normal. But I just want you to keep in mind that the measurement of success isn't based on a positive response to our no. Obviously, it would be lovely if they say yes to everything, but actually the measurement of success is based on our behavior and how we feel afterwards. So we want to be able to do it in a measured, not aggressive way. And we want to be able to feel afterwards, I've actually done a pretty good job here. I don't feel bad about it. And your children might still have a tantrum. They might still get angry and cry. But believe me, if you can keep it to an assertive, calm way of saying no, then over time, your child will respect it and accept it. And the temper and the anger will become less frequent and less severe. So keep in mind, to begin with, the measurement of success to your no is based on our behavior and how we feel afterwards, not on the positive response from the child. Sometimes we might find it hard to say no because we're afraid of other people's opinion. It could be our own partner who might disagree with us and find us too harsh or too soft. If you're in a separated family, it can also be your ex-partner that you fear a little bit, who come back to you afterwards and say, why did you do this? And you're too harsh, you're too soft, you're too aggressive. And therefore we become lean, or we become more aggressive. Depends on our moods. I'm sure we've all been there where we felt, I know I should have said yes. I know I should have said no, but I'm just way too tired right now, or I feel a bit down. So I'm just going to give in and say yes. We feel guilty. Maybe we feel sorry for them. So if your child is going through some challenges in life, academically, socially, separation, or special needs, we might feel we don't want to put more hardship to their life by saying no or give them more boundaries. But just keep in mind that actually, if we do it the right way, it is a love declaration. Remember the heart, I love you too much to behave like that. Maybe we're confused about when to say no. Is it okay to say no to more screen time or no to a new mobile? And we're going to look at that today, obviously. What about our temper? We will look into that. Sometimes our no provokes some reactions in our children that can really bring out the temper in us. So we're going to look at our own temper today. If we have used too many no's, so they become pointless for the kids to actually even ask us. We might even have taught them to lie to us because they don't want to ask if it's a no all the time. Maybe our own childhood. If you feel that maybe you have got used to an aggressive no, we do it the same way, or maybe you go the opposite way and you actually are afraid to use no altogether. So I'm absolutely aware of that there's a lot of boundaries to be able to say no. But also, once we get the hang of it, I just want you to know there's so many benefits to be able to say no. And I'm just going to quickly go through them with you. The main thing is you'll be proud of yourself. It really boosts your parenting confidence when you find it within yourself and that you can say no and set boundaries in a way that sits well with you and doesn't make you lose your temper. And over time, actually, your children start respecting you. For our children, they learn to accept and respect boundaries. We really set them up for the future. So once they're out in the community, in schools or activities or university and work, where there will be boundaries and rules, they're more likely to follow them because they have been taught from home to do so. But also, nobody goes through life 100% successful and get what they want all the time. So there will be times when they can't get what they want or think doesn't go their way. So if at home we teach them that sometimes it is a no, sometimes they can't get what they want, and that sometimes they just have to do what is expected in this community, then again, you set them up for the future once they experience out in life, and they won't have these big wobbles because they're used to it. They know how to handle it. Also, we become safe company to be with because they don't have to second guess how we're going to respond or react to their behavior and request. They can trust us, and it really will boost the relationship with your child when we start behaving the proper way. And he or she will start perceiving you differently with respect, and they're more likely to cooperate with you in your home, and it becomes a calmer place to be. It boosts your child's self-worth. So just keep this in mind, that I love you too much to behave like that. They feel worth your time and energy, that we trust them, that they can behave, that they can live up to our expectation of being helpful, resourceful, and respectful. And if we don't put down these boundaries, we're in danger of sending signals, we don't trust you to do so. The best thing is we become a role model that shows them it's okay to have boundaries and make them clear to the receiver. And we can do so in a non-confrontational way, because it's really important that we teach our children they don't have to say yes to everything out there. They can actually have limits. They can make it aware. They can tell the person in front of them without have to be aggressive. So there's loads of benefits to be able to say no successfully. But I would like to start with the end in mind. Because so often as parents, we parent from our short-term goal, which is a quick fix in the here and now, where we want our kids to be happy, or we want them to stop being angry, or we want them to stop being so confused, and we will do anything to do so, and therefore we parent from our short-term goal, which is peace and quiet in the here and now. But the consequences of parenting from our short-term goal is that we might end up saying yes when we actually want to say no. Or maybe we have said no, but we changed it to a yes because we just want peace and quiet and can't deal with it afterwards. Maybe we bent our rules just a little bit to just have quiet in the home, even though we know it's the wrong thing to do. Or maybe we do too much for them in order to avoid the battles afterwards. So maybe we feel sorry for them, or we just want things to get done in the here and now. Maybe we problem solve for them because we just want them to be better, and the hurt and the anger and the sadness to go away. But the problem here is when we parent from our short-term goal is that we're in danger of raising kids who don't respect boundaries to us or anybody out in society. And also they might become lazy because they're so used to that if they battle hard enough, people will start doing things for them. Maybe we send a signal that we don't trust them to follow through with things, to do things, or to even problem solve on their own. But the main thing is we undermine our own authority and make our life so much more difficult in the long run. So it's really not good to start to parenting from your short-term goal. So what I would like you to do now to have a think about the end in mind. What is your long-term goal? What kind of man and woman would you like to raise in 5 or 10 or 15 years time? So if your child is 5 years old, think about in 15 years time, what kind of man or woman would you like your daughter or son to be? Or if they're 10, in 10 years time, what kind of man and woman would you like to see? What kind of qualities do you want them to have? What do you want them to feel about themselves, life, and for others? So for me, when my kids were younger, so as I said, they are 18, 20, and 22, my long-term goal was for them to be independent. I didn't want them as 30-year-olds still to be hanging out at the couch. I want them to be independent. I want them to be respectful to other people. And I wanted them to be helpful and resourceful. So just have a think about, what are your long-term goals? What kind of men and women would you like to raise? So maybe just put down a few words right now in what's your long-term goal. It could be helpful, respectful, confidence. What do you want to see in 5, 10, or 15 years' time? So once you've been clear about your long-term goal, and it might be you don't have it right now, but you will think about it afterwards, this will become your compass, your parenting guideline. This will be how you raise your children. So from now on, I would like you to really always keep your long-term goal in mind. So if you don't know what to say or what not to say or how to say a no, just stop and think, how does this gonna match my long-term goal? So a good example could be something like, if they don't want to do their chores and I'm just too tired to follow through with this, so I'm going to do it myself. Stop and think, that actually doesn't match my long-term goal of independency very, very well, because I'm teaching them that they don't have to do things themselves. It doesn't match my long-term goal of respect very well, because really here what I'm doing is to telling them that if there are boundaries or rules in the home, they can just ditch them. They don't have to follow through with them. They can be disrespectful. So think about every time you're dealing with your children, am I matching my long-term goal? Also, in order to reach your long-term goal, you need to be clear about your parenting principles, your boundaries. Where do you feel you need to set limits and say no? So have in mind, are there certain times where you feel you always have to say no and put boundaries down that is really important for you? So I'm just going to give a few examples. It could be that after you have agreed to screen time and they always wanted a little bit longer time, just one more level, just a bit more time, that actually that's a no, because we've agreed to our screen time and we want them to be respectful to us, and we want them to know that once we have some rules, they have to stick to it. So do you feel that's where you have to say no? Is it a bedtime when they just want to stay up a little bit longer? Or maybe that's the time they have to do something. Or I have a project tomorrow, mommy, or I forgot I have homework, dad, or, I need to send this email. Can you just help me? If you feel that happens a lot and you really don't want this to happen, then is that where you need to put your boundaries down and say, no, that's not going to happen tonight. It will have to be tomorrow. Is it snack before dinner that they always ask for, or they want something afterwards when they haven't finished their meal? Maybe it's when you go shopping, they're always begging for something or nagging you to get sweets or crisp. Is that when you need to put your boundaries down and say no? Is it related to a new mobile and gadgets? Could it be something like you've said to them already, you can have a mobile when you're 12? Maybe it's staying up longer, even after you've agreed to bedtime, or in general, when you ask them to do the agreed chores that they don't want to do it, that you have to stick with it. So keep in mind, where do you feel that you often need to put your boundaries down and say no? Once you have agreed with yourself to your long-term goal, and you have also agreed with yourself to your parenting principles, where you need to put your boundaries down, then you need to be a predictable parent. So you need to inform your child about your boundaries and where you will say no. Because remember, kids thrive when they know what's expected for them and how it's going to happen. So you're going to tell your child that from now on, I just want you to know that I am going to stick to the agreed bedtime because you will be tired the day after. Or from now on, I will stick to the agreed screen time because otherwise we won't get to bed in time or we won't get our homework. So I just want you to know that from now on, when you ask, it's going to be a no from me and I will stick to the agreement. That's my boundary. That's the limit. You can also tell them how you will do it. I'll give you a warning. I'll give you a reminder. I will come and sit next to you, and then we will have to stick to the agreement and my boundaries. You can also tell them what will happen if they don't follow through with it, the consequences. So it could be they say, if you refuse to turn off the video or the screen, then I will take the remote control away. Or it could be you remove a privilege. If they get really angry, you can say they will have to break things, then they'll have to replace it, or they will have to fix it. So the main thing here is that your long-term goal will have to match your parenting principle, and then you become a predictable parent by taking it to the child so they know what your boundaries are. So this might take a little bit of time for you to think about, but you kind of have the idea now, and then you can work on it after this webinar. But before we talk about how to say no, I just want to talk about that we need to have earned the right to do so by ongoing relationship building, which enable us to work together as a team based on mutual respect, safety, and consistency. But also we need to get the balance right between disciplining our children and set boundaries, spending positive time together, and praising them and encourage them, so they don't feel that we're always nagging at them and maybe start avoiding our company. And we can do this by setting one-on-one time aside every day with our child, where we're 100% present and opening to listen and support and connecting. And I just want to say, it doesn't have to be long. It can really only be 10 minutes a day minimum, where we are 100% with our child and nothing else matters. And I would like just quickly to go through with you, how can we get the most out of this one-on-one time with our children? So the main thing is that from now on, I would like for you to imagine that every time you're with your child, you're creating a mindful green bubble, where your mind is full of what's going on right now. It's when you zone into what is important and what matters right now, and you're 100% connected to you and your child and what's going on between the two of you. It's when you zone out to what is not important right now, everything outside your green bubble. It can be emails, it can be chores, it can be siblings, it can be your own work, it can be previous disappointment about something your child have done or something they're sad or their challenges. Right now, you just zone in to what's important right now, which is you and your child and their connection. It's when you're generous with your time and just give them your 100% focused. It's when we're with them, not just around them. It's when we're opening to listening to understand, not to respond. And just keep in mind, we don't have to have the right answer for everything. And sometimes listening is the right answer. So just listening with your eyes and your ears and with your body. Follow their lead. We're so busy to dragging our kids into our adult world during the day with routines and rules and doing things and activities and chores, that just these 10 minutes every day, you follow their lead and just do what they would like to do. And remember, it doesn't have to be big. Sometimes it's enough just to be. You don't have to do very much. You don't have to build a big Lego house or dress the dolly or jump in the trampoline. Just to be there physically and mentally with your child is enough. Try not to ask too many questions or teach them, because it puts pressure on the child to get the answer right and or to perform. So what you can do instead is you can use something called descriptive commenting. And descriptive commenting is when you describe everything that's going on inside the mindful bubble. It's when you can describe what they're doing, what they're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you are feeling, and what you're sensing. I can see you sitting there, really quiet and full of concentration, drawing a pink elephant. Wow, and then you're going to make the eyes super purple. It looks very interesting. I'm really enjoying just sitting here with you. So you can just comment on the effort, on the feeling and sensing. What happens here is that when we're using descriptive commenting, you're really showing you're 100% focused on what's going on in the here and now. You can either seize or schedule the one-on-one time. So if you feel you have a lot of stuff going on and you have lots of kids, you might want to think about when is a good time to spend one-on-one time, bubble time with your child. Or you can seize the moment when they're sitting doing something where they relax and having a good time. Instead of going out to do chores or email on social media, we can zone into their world and just enter into what they are doing. It depends on what's the best for you. Once you get the hang on one-on-one time, there's so many benefits. You get the balance right between disciplining and positive time together. It's also a bank of positives. Remember, if you enter their world at a certain part of the day, they're more likely to enter your world at a certain part of the day when you have to say no and put your boundaries down. So you're building a foundation of really good connection. It's a huge confidence booster for your child when you're generous with your time, because they know it's the most precious thing you have, because we're so busy in our life. There's a huge confidence booster. So have in mind, when is a good time for you to spend one-on-one time with your children, or do you want to just seize the moment? Something else is catch them being good. Again, to get the balance right, we don't want to just say no and put our boundaries down all the time. Also try to be that positive I spy. So every time they're not doing something wrong, show that you have noticed it by acknowledging, or like, you know what, I'm really appreciating the way that you're looking at me, because that means that you're listening. Or if they're calm, or if they're helping, show them that you appreciate that too. It's when we empathize their strength and their gift, and we praise their effort. You can use this mindful bubble every time you're with your children. When you have to put your rules down, when you have to do requests or boundaries, or even when you have to say no, or if you're angry, you can be mindfully angry. Because what happens here is that once we have made a decision to be angry, we do it with so much more conscious and with focus. And we're more likely to do things in a measured and assertive way, instead of it becoming an impulsive act. So think about that every time you make a decision to be with your child, create this mindful bubble around you, and it will automatically be done okay. So just keep in mind when is a good time for you to spend one-on-one time with your children. But also, I get it. Our kids' reactions to our no, anger, screaming, begging, sadness, often bring out deep emotion in us. And we might end up doing and saying things that we regret later on. And we might end up in shaming and blaming and screaming and think later on, that was not my finest hour. I wish I could take that back again. And actually, we become a role model for our kids of how to behave. So it's really important that we have some tools that will help us to master these deep emotions when they come, so they don't hijack the outcome or our behavior or action. So what I would like you to do now is to share with you a quick tool called the 1, 2, 3 awareness breath. So from now on, before you say and do anything, I would like you to just stop and breathe. Just stop and breathe. So if you have to say no, or put your boundaries down, or your child is about to get angry, before you say or do anything, just stop and breathe and check in with yourself. Just have a think about, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling quite frustrated. I can feel I'm about to lose my anger. I can feel I'm about to lose my temper because of my child's reaction or behavior. And if you want to, you can even draw a little love heart just to remind yourself to be kind to yourself, and I can deal with this. And then accept these feelings. It's okay to feel this way, but I don't want it to hijack the outcome. I want to master my emotions. Then think, challenge your negative thoughts. So instead of thinking, oh, here we go again, this is going to be so difficult, and he's going to be angry, and he's going to scream, and I'm not sure I can deal with it, challenge them. I can do this. I'm in full control of myself. I can't control my child's feelings or emotions, but I can control my own. I love him very much, and most of the time she's a really, really good girl, and she's allowed to have an emotions to my no right now. He can get angry, and I can still say no. I can deal with this. And keep in mind, this is not personal. How they're behaving right now is something they're feeling inside. They're feeling disappointed, they're feeling frustrated, they're feeling angry. It is a normal reaction, and it's actually nothing to do with you. It's not your emotions. And also, they will get over it quicker than we do. And then make a decision. What will you do and what will you not do? I'm actually going to say less. I'm just going to listen. I'm going to stick to my no and stay calm. I'm going to accept their reaction, and maybe they need a hug, and I'm just going to stay calm. Or maybe I'm just going to ignore this. I've said my no, and now I'm just going to ignore it. Once you start using this 1, 2, 3 awareness breath before you do or say anything, you will find that you become more measured instead of impulsive. You become assertive instead of aggressive, and responsive instead of reactive. And you become safe company to be with. Because kids don't like to second guess if we're going to hit the roof. Are we going to get angry? Are we going to get withdrawn? Are we going to get sad? We're just going to stay the same with 1, 2, 3 awareness breath. So far, we've only focused on the before. So connection with the child, connection with our own emotions. And now we're going to get into how to say no, what you're all here for. But I hope you all understand that we need to set the foundation and earn our right to do so first. So how are we going to say no? The first thing is you're going to prepare yourself for what lies ahead. Often when we have to say no and put our boundaries down, it provokes deep reactions in our children. Prepare yourself for them. And once you know that once you prepared yourself for how they're going to react to your no, you will actually start responding more measured, because you're not taken by surprise. You've already prepared yourself. Okay, he's going to have a wobble. Okay, he's going to have a scream. He's going to start begging. That's okay. Hey, I'm still going to stick to my no. Focus on your actions, not only your words, and be assertive. Because keep in mind that your child will mirror your emotion by looking at your body language, and they will start copying that. So they will look at us, seeing if we are aggressive or if we are frustrated. So it's really important that we control our body language. Keep the tone neutral. We don't want to scream or be loud, but we don't want to be timid either and whisper. We want it to be assertive and firm and neutral, so they can still hear us. We want our body language to be composed and firm. We don't want it to be threatening, but we don't want to be timid either, so it looks like we don't mean it. We want our facial expression to be just neutral and show that we can cope. We don't want it to be angry or scary or sad. We just want to be very composed and neutral, because remember, the kids will actually start pairing our calmness. And keep in mind, we don't have to be angry in order to mean it, and we don't have to be loud to be heard. We can just be assertive and in control of ourselves. And words can be a really dangerous thing. So when you want to say your no and put your boundaries down, less is more. Use very little words, because otherwise we're in danger of going into overflow, or what a parent recently told me, that she goes into verbal diarrhea. It's when she just cannot stop herself, and one words take the other, and suddenly her emotions build up, and she ends up in shaming and blaming and pointing finger. And then later on, she feels so guilty and actually have to go and apologize, and her no kind of disappears. So less is more. Don't over-explain your decision to say no, because it sounds like you're trying to convince the other person. But also what's happening here is that you're actually opening up for negotiation. As long as you're talking, then they can see a way in to talk over you, and it becomes kind of a battle of heart against heart. So just keep it very simple with your no. Say what you have to say and then stop there. You already have put your boundaries down in the beforehand to say what is a no to you. So make it very short and say, no, I've said already, you cannot have a mobile phone until you're 12 when you start taking the train. And then you stop there. You don't have to say more, or you can't have a cookie before dinner. We've already agreed to this, but you can have one afterwards. Stop there. We don't have to go into, don't you understand? And I thought we've agreed with this, or why do you always have to go in and begging and nagging and screaming? This is so typical you, and I'm not sure I can deal with this. We are in verbal overflow. Keep it simple and keep it short. And do what you said you would do. Remember, you want to be a predictable parent. So you've said what you want to say it, and you've told them how you're going to do it. You're going to stay calm. You're going to control yourself. You're going to give them space. And maybe you even need to ignore them. I'm running a free webinar soon called The Power of Gentle Ignoring that some of you have attended already. So you can find it on my website. And if you feel that now is a good time to ignore, but you don't know how to. Stay mentally and physically connected. So when you've said your no, create that mindful bubble around you and your child where you are absolutely aware of everything that's going on inside, so you can stay in control of yourself and become measured instead of impulsive. So this is how you're going to say the no. But also I want to keep in mind, I want to just explain to you that a no doesn't always have to be, actually a no never have to be hard and aggressive. Here's the thing, a no can actually be positive and pleasant. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. So you can actually make a no into a can no. So instead of saying, no, Sam, you can't have something, then you can say, Sam, as agreed, or as I told you, you cannot have your iPad now, but you can have it after dinner. And then you just keep repeating the can. You actually haven't said the word no here. You've only said you can have something. You can also turn your no into a yes. Sam, yes, you can have your iPad after the dinner. Or yes, you can stay up late on Friday when you don't have to go to school afterwards. And yes, you can have a cookie after dinner when you've had your meal. Or yes, you can watch more screen time Saturday night when it's late movie night and we don't have to get up on Sundays. So that becomes your yes, no. You can also use a when no. Of course, I would love to help you with your project. Now is not a good time. I can help you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So this becomes your positive no. And the benefit of this, it helps people pleasers. So if you find that, so in the very beginning, when I said one of the barriers was that we felt it was non-loving to say no, and we just want to please the receiver, then this really helps because we don't say no at all. Also, it's easier to accept a positive no or positive boundaries. So if you have a child that really hit the roof when you say no or put your boundaries down, then this might be a good one for your child because you say yes or you say can and you tell them when you can have it. But also we set the scene at home. It automatically become a nicer place when we start changing boundaries into something that actually is not unpleasant or negative, but quite positive. And just keep in mind, it's really hard to keep going negative against somebody who are so positive or keep saying you can have, or yes, this is okay, you can have iPad when you're 12 years old. And over time, actually, they will stay much calmer. We also are less likely to lose it ourselves because we just keep that positive vibe going. So lots of benefits to keep a positive boundaries. But obviously, I get it that at times, once we have found the ability to say no and we know our boundaries, it is often our kids' reaction afterwards that can be really hard to deal with. So here's the thing. I just want to say that you don't need to be scared of your child's no. It's actually natural and it's normal. Your kids are small scientists and they're always exploring options and alternatives and creativity and ways out. And that's normal. That's their job. That's how it should be. You don't want to have to somebody who always say, yes, mommy, and never actually stand up to themselves. They're small scientists and they're just doing their job. As much as it is our job to make our boundaries clear and become a predictable parents and don't get wind up about it, stick to it and be consistent. That is our job. Remember, the measurement of success is how we behave and how we feel afterwards. Keep in mind, they can ask, can I have an iPad? Can I stay up longer? Can I have screen time? Can I do, can I not? And we can say no, and they can grieve for what they cannot have or what they cannot do. It is a normal reaction. And actually, they can have a reaction to our no. It's not our job to control their feelings or to tell them to stop feelings or how to feel instead. If we go in to tell them to stop being angry, stop being so disappointed, there's no need to be so silly about this, they only get more upset about this, because actually right now all they want to do is just grieve for what they cannot have or do. And I think we should just allow them to do so by being in control of your own emotions, not try to control theirs. And don't go hard against hard. If they hit the roof and have a reaction, stay calm, stay assertive. You've said your no, now you need to stick to it. You can use something called I listen, I understand, and accept. I can hear you're really upset right now because you can't have more screen time. And I understand you're really upset because you love your iPad, and it's okay to be angry at times. Stop there. So you said your no, you've explained why, you've said when they can have it. Now they get upset, and then you say, I can hear you upset, understand you're upset, and that's okay. Listening, understanding, and accepting is not the same as agreeing. We're still not gonna give in. We're still gonna be consistent. But sometimes all it takes for your child to calm down after you put your boundaries down is to be understood, is to be listened. And then they can breathe. If you can take it, so can them. And then you stick to your no. No negotiation. Just maybe you need to ignore. Walk away or keep repeating. You can't have it after dinner. I know you're angry. I can see you're angry, and that's okay. No more words. They will get over it quicker than we do. So stick to it. Once we have laid the boundaries before, once we've found a way to say it assertive, not aggressive, and we've found a positive way to do it, then the really important part is the afterwards, because we don't want this to end there. Once your child have calmed down after you know and your boundaries, it's really important that you turn your behavior and your attention towards them again, because you send a signal that you're both okay, and there's still place for connection and moving forward and a space for another chance. So I know it's really difficult to connect with your child after they have thrown a huge wobble or got aggressive or run around and said things to you, but if we don't give them attention once they've calmed down, we don't teach them that you will get positive behavior from me once you've calmed down and showed positive behavior yourself. So we need to get over our own deep emotions and reconnect with them after they have thrown a battle or tantrum. You can accept an apology if afterwards they feel really sorry about what they've said and done. Just accept it, but don't make it into, I know you didn't mean it. I feel so sorry for you, and I know you're a good kid. Because what we're doing here is actually, we're kind of showing them a lot of pity and shame, and we're giving them attention for negative behavior. Just say, listen, thank you very much for your apology. I'll accept it. Now let's move on and do something else. And the main thing is, we shouldn't keep reminding your child about the behavior. Why do you always get so angry when I say no? I don't get it. You really by now should be a big boy to understand. Because what we're doing here is we label them as, why do you always do this? We want to move on, give them a chance to improve for next time. You can also problem solve with them. So after they have calmed down and in peaceful time, you can sit down with them and say, listen, I thought I made my boundaries very clear, that I'm going to say no when you ask for more screen time or sweet or 2 ice creams in the park or stay up longer. And I've also told you that I'm not going to give in, and you're obviously still having a huge upset about it. So is there anything that you need from me when you're so upset, or is there anything we can do about it? So problem solve about how they can master their own emotions and behavior when they hear boundaries or no. And the main thing that go off your emotions, anger, frustration, and disappointment, as I said, afterwards, you might still feel, why do they get so upset about this? And I don't get it. Just forget about these emotions, move on, and have positive expectation for next time that you need to put your boundaries down. Because remember, kids will live up to our expectation. So if we expect them to maybe have a little wobble for our boundaries, but actually to go over it quicker, they sense that and they will start responding to it. And then we systematically pay attention to the behavior you want to see more of. So when there are times they do listen to you or they calm down very quickly, then catch them being good when they're doing this and show them that you acknowledge it and that you really, really like it. Hard part. If you have said that you're going to give a consequence for certain behavior, then once they've calmed down, you do need to give them that consequence, because otherwise, again, you don't become safe company. You don't become a predictable parent, and they won't respect you in the long run. And actually, their behavior will only get worse because they know that your consequences are just empty words. So if you've said that if you break or throw some object, you will have to repair it, or you will have to pay for it, or if they are verbally abusive to you, then they get less screen time, or you take some toy away or some privilege, you will have to stick to it. Because over time, they will learn that you mean what you say, and their behavior will become less frequent and less severe. So just a quick sum of today. Before, we need to work on the right, we need to have earned the right to say no and set boundaries. And the first thing we need to do is parent from our long-term goals. So what is your long-term goal? What kind of men and women do you want to raise? And be clear about your limits. Connect with your child every day so you've built a positive relationship so you easily can bounce back afterwards, and also so they will respect you. And the most important thing is master your own emotions. At all times, control yourself and be assertive when giving your no and your boundaries. And keep in mind that no doesn't have to be hard and aggressive and negative. It actually can be positive. And the main thing is your kids can have a reaction to your no. They can grieve for what they cannot have or for what they cannot do. That is normal. That is what they're supposed to do. Our job is to stay calm, assertive, and consistent. Afterwards, connect and re-engage in a healthy way. And you can problem solve, and if need to, deliver consequences. Again, you can do that in a calm and assertive way. Always keep in mind that the measurement of success isn't based on their behavior, it's on ours and how we feel afterwards. Over time, their behavior will become less frequent and less severe, and they would learn how to behave out in society with other people. Things take time. Once you start using this tool, you might find that your children rebel back to get you back to how you were before, where you gave in some of the time, or you bended your own rules, or you changed a no to a yes. So in the beginning, the situation might get worse, but stick to it, and over time, it will become less frequent. Keep in mind, I'm measured, I'm assertive, and I'm responsive. I'm not impulsive, I'm not aggressive, I'm not reactive. And they will start pairing your calmness. And then be a predictable parent with consistency. As I said, this will only work if you stick to it. Even if you give in 2% of the time, they learn that if they push hard enough, they will get what they want or get out of what they don't want, and they will come back big force next time. And as they grow bigger, it will get harder and harder for you. So how can we work together? I have a lot of more free webinars coming up from you. You can find on my website. The Power of Effective Ignoring is in 2 weeks' time. I think I only have 8 spaces left on that one. I have one called Parenting During Epidemic, the 8th of December. And then in the new year, 2021, Parenting Kids with Big Emotions. I have a few other workshops on my website that you can sign up for. If you would like me to introduce me to your schools or corporate or any organizations, I work a lot here by delivering webinars and discovery group, and also one-on-one support to the parents there. I offer one-on-one support and coaching for either individual parents, but I also work with couples of how to parent as a team. I work with parents before, during, and after separation as well. I do home hosting workshops, so if you would like to actually put one of the workshops together for your friends, then all I need is 8 parents, and then you can attend for free. And you can choose the topic and the time, and I just run it for you. After these webinars, I hope it's okay that I add you to my newsletters, where you're going to receive parenting blogs and also my free webinars. If you don't want to, you can always click on subscribe, and that is absolutely fine too. And last but not least, thank you so much for trusting me with your time. And now I'm going to go back, stop screen sharing, and I would love to hear if there is any, if there's any questions that you might have. So Anna had to leave earlier. Thank you. Yes, you told me already. And Vic has also emailed me that she has to leave earlier. So I don't know if Linda had any questions that might have come in throughout the workshop. Mervit, thank you very much for your nice comment. need to leave now. Bye. You could always ask any questions in the email afterwards. Does anybody have any questions to the webinar?
Yeah, it's clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, thanks a million for that. That was really informative. That's really good. Just
you
mentioned the consequences and following through with the consequences. Are there any certain types of consequences that we should use? I know in our house we often kind of go, we're going to reduce your pocket money by €1, or we're going to, it's often the consequences are money related, and I don't know what repercussions that has. So yeah, just a little bit of guidance around that would be great.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Claire. And it's always a big question, this thing about what is the consequence. Just back to the pocket money. There's different philosophy about pocket money. My philosophy around pocket money is that once we have given it to them, I don't really think we should take it away, because they've obviously earned it, or we've agreed to it in a certain amount. And it's almost like when we go to work, we are agreed on a salary and a bonus, and then 1 month we might not get it, and then take it back again. And actually, it can create a lot of negativity when we start taking back what we have given it to them already. So I wouldn't actually touch pocket money too much, if you ask me. I would much rather want to touch maybe something to do with privilege, or where we take something away or make something less. But when we give pocket money, Claire, just keep in mind less is more. So if we say, first, we become a predictable parent by telling them beforehand, if you choose to hit your brother, or if you choose to run away, the consequences will be that I take 20 minutes off your screen time, or you can't have your iPad in the evening. And then once you have to follow through with it, give them a warning first to say, listen, do you remember we agreed to the consequence, which is I take away this or less time of that? And then you will have to take it away, obviously, and say that's 20 minutes left of your screen time. But because you have made it only 20 minutes, you can always add more and say, if you don't stop now, it's going to be 15 minutes. It's going to be 25. It's going to be 30 minutes. So whatever the consequence is, make sure it's not too big, because it's almost like unmanageable for the child. But when it comes to consequences, Claire, I wouldn't actually involve pocket money too much.
Okay.
Is there anything else you can use as a consequence for your children?
I suppose the other thing that I was thinking is, like, in terms of how they spend their pocket money, but that's probably related to the same thing.
Yeah.
They should be able to use it as they want. Yeah, it's probably around what we can kind of take away in terms of screen time, and that I'll have to give it a little bit of thought.
Yeah. So often it's about taking away privilege. It could be a play date that's coming up, or it could be something that's going to happening. But I think that sounds like pocket money is not going to work. But yeah, taking away a privilege, and often it's related to screen time or a party or a toy. But I wouldn't take away either any positive time with you and your husband, because we don't want to take away positive experience from something that's healthy for the child. So give it a bit of thought, and then whatever the consequence is, start with less is more, and then you can always add on to it if they don't comply to the request that you have given them.
Great, thank you. And just one very small follow-up question. Like you mentioned about the ground rules and kind of having those boundaries set from the start. Like, is it good to kind of put that up on a piece of paper for all to see, everybody's aware of, making it clear by putting it down on paper?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic idea, Claire. So first you sit down with yourself and think about, what's my long-term parenting goal? What's my parenting principles? And then sit down with the children. But I would also suggest, before we say what we think the rules should be, we should say we would like this to be a safe home to be, and therefore we think we need some ground rules or agreements or whatever you want to call them. And so why don't we just come up with a few ideas? So what do you think the rules should be? And they might say, we think that mum and dad should stop shouting, or no hitting, or no screaming. And then together you make the rules. The other thing about having the rules is to make them positive. So instead of no screaming, no hitting, no shouting, it can be gentle hands, or the mouth is for kind words. And then we all write it down. You can even get your kids to write it down, and then you can all sign it and have it somewhere visible to hang. The good thing about that, Claire, and everybody else, is that you have something to refer to.
Yeah.
So instead of just putting the rules down and our boundaries, you can say, but Jen, don't you remember the rules we agreed to? You agreed to the rule, and the rule is that we don't hit. And then you can just point at it. So absolutely has a double effect, Claire, if you sit down with your family and come up with these agreements together, write them up, and everybody sign them and have somewhere visible to refer to. So yes, great idea, Claire.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that.
No, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Is there any other questions people would like to ask? Obviously, after this, I'm going to send you an email, a little bit of follow-up emails. And if you want, I can send you the recording, or I can send you the PowerPoints, because it might be that you think, oh, what was he said about how to say it, or how to set the connection, or how to do the mindful bubble time. So you can just reply to that email to say, yes, I would like the recording, or I would like the PowerPoint. So I will send you an email, and I will add you to my newsletter, and then you can always subscribe if you want to. And also there's the next workshop, the 24th of November, which is for free. It's about how to ignore gently, and also with a positive twist. Because the principle of everything I do in predictable parenting is it doesn't have to be hard and negative. We can be a positive, assertive, and measured parent. And therefore, as I keep saying, we become safe company to be with, and our kids actually want to cooperate with us. So I don't think we have any more questions. So I will just end this webinar, if nobody has anything else, by saying thank you so much for attending today. And you're always very welcome to share these webinars with your friends. And I hope that you will have a lovely day. Bye, everybody.